The MLB trade deadline is coming this week. Which relievers might gain save opportunities? Which current closers are at risk of losing their role? We'll answer these questions and more next on Beat the Shift. Welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. How are you, Ruvain?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am exhausted. I have played 9 softball games in the span of the last 5 days. I had a triple header Sunday, followed by a pickup game. A triple header today, followed by a pickup game. The Sunday one was league. This one was our office, the big insurance tournament in the city. We actually were about to make the playoffs and make the semifinals, and then it started pouring, and the whole rest of the playoffs were canceled. But we ended up playing a little bit of pickup later today. It went to 10 innings, so it was some great softball. How are you, Ruvain?
I'm good. Were there any scouts there wanting to make a trade to try to pick you up? Because teams always need another pitcher, and if you have a different style, it's always worthwhile.
You never know who's watching. All right, well, we've got a fantastic episode. We've got our buddy Greg Jewett from Reliever Recon and Closer Monkey and more. What's going on, Greg?
Not a whole. Well, I'd be lying. There's a bunch going on as we anticipate the trade deadline, but life is good. Thank you, gentlemen.
And I will be seeing you in just a couple of weeks on my vacation as I go up and do some baseball stadiums in upstate New York. We're going to a Syracuse Mets game together.
Correct.
Looking forward. And Sky Dombrowski as well. That should be a lot of fun. Looking forward. Yeah.
Beautiful stadium. It's very family friendly. That's a big thing up there. So you'll have a great time. Yeah,
we're doing them. We're doing Binghamton Mets. And then we're making our way all the way down and actually seeing a Washington Nationals game at the end. So doing some minor league stadiums in Pennsylvania, and then all the way down to the nation's capital. So it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to get right into it with our strategy section, and we're going to talk about the trade deadline. But since we have Greg here, we're going to talk as far as what to do with relievers/closers. So first question for you, Greg: when is it worth it to trade in your league for prospective closers, or for closers, I should say, prior to the trade deadline? When is it worth it to trade?
I mean, that's a tricky one. It's really if somebody in your league has a surplus and you can work out a deal. We're always worried about what can it do in the standings, and we'll get into a little of that later when we speak about a couple of guys that might end up getting some saves after the trade deadline, and it's like how much volume and how many points in the standings can you make up with that deal. Obviously, you want to try and make a deal sooner rather than later, and just like in the real life major leagues, if you can get a guy before he gets into it, that's the ideal threading of the needle. But with a slow moving market and some of the top end guys kind of being taken off of the market potentially, it's going to be not as robust of a influx of saves after the trade deadline, or at least potentially that's the way it's setting up as we enter this last weekend before it happens.
We'll talk a little bit about some specific situations. Obviously, prospective closers to trade for them. Mm-hmm. We're talking deeper leagues here. You might have specs off the waiver wire, but in deep leagues, you'll have specs off of trading. Ruvain, so we had Fred Zinke on a couple weeks ago, and we asked him the question, when does it pay to trade for closers versus acquiring them on the waiver wire? Zinke pretty much said that it really depends on the year, and I believe that he said that this year, because, as Greg just mentioned, there's not really many coming in flux, that trading is really the way to go, and trading might be what you should do right now before the trade deadline. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you definitely should try. I've been putting in a couple of my leagues. I've been putting out feelers for trades for closers for the past 2 months because I just wasn't happy with my closers. I wanted to upgrade, and I've been shot down everywhere because everyone seems to be hoarding their closers. It's very hard to trade for closers because they're so
Hmm.
it's one of the most scarce commodities out there, a quote unquote reliable closer. I a lot of my teams, I have Alex Lang. I don't call that a reliable closer. I can't, so I just can't put him into my lineup sometimes. It's for trading for closers. I think it's also a matter of how it fits for your team, how valuable the closer is to your team. If you think you're gonna gain up 3, 4, 5 points, and people above you are gonna lose points because of it, then you should definitely try to make the trade as soon as possible because you can get the biggest turnaround that way. But otherwise, I think you can get prospective closers on the waiver wire. And thank goodness there haven't been that many injuries to closers, so you can get all these middle relievers and you can get these prospective closers now. I think this will be the week. This will be the weekend to get it, not next weekend.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. What's your take, Greg, on it? Do you think for this year it's worth it to trade rather than to wait and pick them up off the waiver wire? And do you agree with Fred Zinke that sometimes it's the opposite?
Yeah, this year, even it's funny because we always think of Tampa Bay as like an unstable situation, and Brian Baker recorded his 30th save this year. I was fortunate enough to get in. I added him a week before he got expensive in NFBC, obviously because of what I do, but I was fortunate enough to take that chance and get those. So he's saved a couple of my teams quite literally in that category. And in leagues where you can trade, it's been so it's been so unstable in so many other situations. It's like, okay, we think this is the guy for the A's. Like, remember when Elvis Alvarado was like a popular thing when he got a couple of saves back to back, and then he hasn't had one since. There's so many situations where that's been happening, and the volume in the in the previous 5 seasons, the average has been 214.4 pitchers getting a save in a season. We're at 212, and it's not even August. And actually today, I think we just hit 213 because we had another Aaron Savali got to save for the Cubs. So we're within one of matching the average of the previous 5 years. So there's saves being accrued, but capturing them in your lineup has been so much more difficult this year. Especially people are signing or adding guys on Sunday, and then the week after they're not getting the save. And we can't chase saves that already happened. We can only try and pursue the ones that are coming down the pike. And like I said, the trade deadline with Miller probably being unavailable and Chapman being taken off of the trade market, it's really narrowed the potential for turnover in that area. Like people were trying to get Garrett Whitlock, that's not going to work out. Luke Weaver could be traded to somebody and become a closer, but it really destination determines what his role would be. And there was a report today from Anthony DeComo saying that the Mets are asking so much for him, they might price him out of the market. So it's really, really going to be a slippery trade deadline for adding them. So if you could trade for somebody, you might have to overpay, but that's the reality at this point of the season.
I think that my prediction is that the first Mets reliever to be traded will be A.J. Minter, if any. That's my prediction.
They're definitely trading Brooks Raley. Him and Minter are both on expiring contracts. It's
Yep.
just a matter of
But Luke Weaver has another year for his contract, and the way
correct.
the market is, why would the Mets even want to do that? If they want to rebuild for next year, that's a big piece.
What if they think there's not going to be a next year,
Well,
right?
Well, that's
well,
also
you
yeah.
have to plan. You have to plan for next year, even if there's not going to be a next year. You
You
still
don't
have to
have
plan.
to. If you decide that there's not going to be a next year, then it's like having a guy who's on an expiring contract right now. I'm just throwing it out there. Obviously, we talked
That's
last
true.
week with Zach Scott, who thinks that there will be a season, that it's just hardball until then because everyone is just vested. But I'm just throwing it in there that's definitely a consideration. Okay, so question for you, Greg. What is it, or what stats do you see, or pedigree, or something that makes a reliever worth taking a stab at off the waiver wire prior to the trade deadline? Like, what are you looking at to determine, oh, this is a guy that I want to take a stab at. I should give it a shot, assuming that you have a roster spot available or a need.
Well, first and foremost, we want the guy that's mostly in the eighth inning before any of this happens. I mean, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to be the person that moves up and takes the role, but that's usually a good precursor. I use K minus BB percentage. I like 20% or higher. That's the preferred, and it doesn't mean it's the hard line rule, but relievers that have that sort of a baseline is a great place to start. I like guys with a swing strike percentage at 15% or higher. Again, you'll take somebody with less if they induce weak contact. I like contact percentages less than 70 if I can. And, you want a guy that's not a whip risk. I mean, we're trying to keep people off base and guys that can get strikeouts when they need them. Those are kind of the monikers I use. It's not hard and true. And I also like a guy that throws strikes 66% of the time or higher. Again, just, we want walk rates reduced if we can. And we want guys that can get those outs with swing strikes. So if there's a couple of runners on, they can get that strikeout. Brian Baker had a rough outing today, but he got a game-ending strikeout to get the 30th save. I mean, again, he's imperfect, but when you're looking at these things, he hits a lot of those things, even though he's not a huge strikeout guy. He does some of those other things and get that whiff when he needs it.
Ruvain, I know this might be a context-dependent answer, but how much should you be spending on these reliever specs that might turn into closers on Fab? Like, what kind of budget should you be putting down on?
I think it goes back to what I said before. It really depends on how valuable he is for your team. How much you can think you're gonna increase and go up in the standings based on it. I mean, you should at this point. There's 2 months left in the season. You have August and September. If you want to split your rest of your Fab for the rest of the season, that's fine. And if you want to use maybe 20% of that 50% for closers this month and maybe 10% next month, because the closer situation once after the All-Star break, after the trade deadline, things are a little bit more concrete. So I think you'd spend more now. So I'd say 20%. This is a little complicated. 20% of the 50% I'm going to split up for the next 2 months.
Greg, what's your take on this? And, of course, the other option is to wait until the dust settles after the trade deadline and then spend the Fab there when you see, okay, your guy was traded, now this person's now the closer. It's more of a sure thing. Like, what's your take on the best way to be efficient with your money? Make the spec now or just wait until the dust settles and grab the actual closer later?
Again, it's going to be league dependent. It's hard when you have like 7 roster spots on the bench in an NFBC league. You can't go get like 3 closer specs this weekend unless you have that space. It really boxes you in. If you want to throw if you're taking a couple of flyers, I would say they got to be like $5 bids or less, and then you'll take I'm talking on $1,000 budget. You're just flipping a couple of guys out there and hoping one of them sticks when you throw them against the wall. That's great. But again, if you're waiting for those concrete things, then you're paying. And, we have the running joke at Reliever Recon. We call it the Sunday save tax, because when a guy gets a save on a Sunday, you might as well just add 10% to your bids when you're trying to get them. And it just kind of goes from there. So there's a couple of guys that will be getting some chances. I think there's a change underway, even though Ruvain hinted at Alex Lang. I think he's kind of being displaced by Steven Cruz, but we'll save the rest of them for a little after.
Didn't he just give up a grand slam to win the game, though, for Minnesota today?
Who? Steven Cruz? No,
somebody
he
did.
Wasn't in that game. He pitched the 2 games before.
Okay.
No, that was...
Somebody did.
Lucas Erceg opened the inning. They even used Alex Lang today, and he was rested. Lucas Erceg opened the inning, and they brought in Strom. He gave up the grand slam.
Ah, okay. So, Greg, I have in labor, I've got Mason Miller on my team. I'm also I'm not going to say desperate, but saves could really help me gain a lot of points really quickly.
Okay.
Am I picking up Adrian Morejon?
No. Unless somebody, and the Yankees may be desperate enough that they're willing to overpay, but I think AJ Preller understands that with his lack of good starting pitching, the only way he's going to win games down the stretch and in the playoffs is with his bullpen. I don't even know if they're going to trade Morejon, to be honest with you. I think he might just ride out the storm with what he's got. They just got Estrada back. They're hoping Jason Adam can return in September. And I was reading in the San Diego Union Tribune today that they're thinking of maybe adding a reliever in the trade market. So I don't think they're going to be able to get this enough starting pitching, and they're hoping that the couple of guys coming back from injury can help supplement their staff. So they're just going to do the Detroit Tigers chaos from last year and try and piece together games until they can get to their bullpen. If they can get a lead into the sixth inning, then they're just going to shorten those games with those strong guys at the end. At this point, I'm saying I would put Mason Miller being traded at 10%.
So I didn't tell you the whole story. I already picked up Adrian It's Morahan or Morahan?
Morahan.
Morahan.
I mean, it's good to back up your investment, but I think you can.
I mean, he's my only closer other than Alex Lang, who is not dependable, and I need the saves.
But this is just showing how crazy the trade market is. That we're talking about picking a moron for a couple of our teams, and this was last week, not this week, but last week, because we didn't know if what was going on. So we said, you know what? Let's put our bids in for moron this week, just in case. Why not?
I mean, what's the worst? I spent $1 on Fab, and if Mason Miller's not traded, so I'll drop Morahan for the next person next week. Like I had a spot available because somebody went on the IL. Mm-hmm. So, it's context dependent. If I had a log jam, then I would forget it. But, for me, the opportunity cost, because of my team situation, called for it. But I guess I'm disappointed to hear that you only think it's a 10% chance. I thought it would be a little bit higher than that.
I really don't. Like I said, I think now San Diego has had a very soft schedule the last few days, but that's allowed them to win 5 games in a row. And I think, AJ Preller's he's a riverboat gambler, so I think he thinks there's enough in their first series after the trade deadline is against the Diamondbacks. If he thinks they can get 2 or 3 of those games, then they chew up another game on them in the standings. I mean, San Diego's only a game and a half out of the last wild card right now. Trading Miller means you're telling the clubhouse. I mean, look what happened when the Brewers traded Hader. The team went to a tailspin. You trade Miller, the same thing would happen.
Okay, so let's get into the meat of some specific players. So, Greg, who are some players that you should be speculating on to close games? And also, who are some closers that are in jeopardy of losing their job that maybe want to unload now or, be a little bit cautious on?
All right, so we already gave you one, Steven Cruz in Kansas City. He's not perfect. His K-BB could be a little better, but in July he's been very good. He generates soft contact, so that helps. Again, it's not always a clean outing, which I would prefer. But even the other day, he gave up a couple of hits and still got the save in Detroit. I thought he showed a lot of chutzpah in that outing. So I think right now he's the hot hand, and I think that's who Quatraro will be calling upon for the next save chance, especially after they passed over Alex. I mean, if you're not going to use Alex Lang with a 3-0 lead, and when he was rested, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that they're moving on. So if they can trade him for anything, they will. But I just think Cruz is going to displace him there. Arizona, Torey Lovullo, obviously he announced that Seawall is no longer closing. He hinted that his right-handed preferred reliever would be Jonathan Loaizaga, which I was surprised about because Juan Murillo has actually been the better reliever. But he said that he thinks Murillo is going to be his fireman, so he wants him to be able to, if he needs him in the 7th, he can pitch him in the 7th. That doesn't mean Murillo won't get a save here and there. It just means that he's going to be doing the dirty work, which paves the way for Loaizaga to be the beneficiary of more save opportunities moving forward in the short term for the Diamondbacks. They still have Justin Martinez rehabbing. He has not started facing minor league hitters yet, but that should be happening probably next week, which would put him on probably a 2 to 3 week return schedule if that does happen. So maybe by the 3rd week in August or the last week in August, he could be back. And then if Martinez gets back, then they could obviously move to him as into the closer role if they so choose, if his command is okay. Now, He was never a high command guy, so that's what we worried about, because when you come back from Tommy John, that's usually the last thing that returns. But the velocity reports have been terrific, so we're not done with change. And Brandon Garcia is somebody in deep leagues I think you can also use. He's really done very well keeping a low whip in his recent outings. He's a good swing and miss guy, and he got the save the other day when they used him in Pittsburgh against the heart of the lineup. So he entered against Brandon Lau and got that save. So he's on the radar. So those are a couple of the guys. Now, in some leagues, if Ben Joyce, like in NFBC, it's hard because if Ben Joyce wasn't drafted, you can't add him. So if he's in your league, you might be able to get him in there. He's had 2 scoreless outings at AAA. His last outing, he did use the splinker instead of just his fastball only. So,
Splinker?
Yeah.
That's a pitch?
That was the pitch he added in
Splitter-
2024 that
splitter
fueled
sinker.
his, yeah.
Splitter
Yeah.
sinker. Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta work on that one for my softball
There you go.
game.
Yeah, we'll get you the grip things for him, but he should be back soon. Now the good news is that the Angels bullpen is a mess. The bad news is that the only team that's had less save opportunities than the Angels this year is the Mets. So it's not like you're getting a high volume, and Ben Joyce really can't work in back-to-back games. So you can add Ben Joyce. Just figure if you get 5 saves the rest of the way, then that's your expectation. If you get more, it's gravy. If you get less, then you can blame me. But don't go crazy. But I think they'll be able to manage his workload and
Blame Greg on the if your team doesn't
That's
pick
right,
up Ben
yes.
Joyce doesn't
Of
just blame
course, always
Greg.
blame me.
Let me throw out 3 names, and you tell me who's going to vulture the most saves the rest of the season: Tyler Rogers, Hunter Gaddis, or Kyle Finnegan. Who do you think is going to vulture the most saves out of those 3?
Yuck.
Well, those are the next.
Do you
those are the next
think
guys up.
Varland's going to get traded?
They already said Varland won't be traded. I think they came out today and
Okay.
said he doesn't want to be.
Oh, so you're hoping they'll trade Rogers or somebody he can close?
Yeah.
Rogers is he's like a great guy because he can go out there any day you need him, but he's like the fireman. They use him in the 8th or the 7th inning. He's not really he'll get a save here and there. Finnegan's a mess. I mean, out of those 3, I guess I would just take Rogers just because hopefully he'll go get traded. If he does get traded to a good team, he might be able to grab 2 or 3 ancillary saves, but that's not a great group. So but the other question that you asked was who might lose their role.
Right.
The first one's kind of a surprise, but Riley O'Brien's 31 years old. And there was a very good point made by one of the St. Louis beat writers that if you're going to trade Riley O'Brien, his value is never going to be higher. And I actually agree because his underlying data is not fantastic. He kind of gets by some of his saves with guts and guile. He made the All-Star team, but if you look at his last 30 days, his whip is not pretty. He's not a big swing and miss guy. I think they've squeezed out everything they could get from him. I mean, if they keep him, that's fine. He'll keep getting his saves till the end of the year, and he's been a benefit to the folks who took him late in their drafts. But there's a chance that St. Louis they trade him. I mean, Romero's on the IL, but he's on an expiring contract. I still think a team might take him as long as the reports are good. So if they trade Romero and O'Brien, you're opening up a pathway to possibly George Soriano getting some looks and anybody else that they love. Gastelum, I don't know. He's still shaking to me. He gave up more runs today in the extra innings. I think Soriano will probably get the first crack in St. Louis if that happens. If Detroit does go into the full sell mode, like I think they should, I think they'll trade Kenley Jansen, who's not really been a great closer this year for fantasy purposes. I think a name to keep an eye on there is Ty Madden. He's been doing multiple inning relief appearances, but his last 3 have been scoreless. So last 5.2 innings are scoreless. I don't think he's got the stuff to be a starter, but I think he might transition very well into that bullpen because they don't know if Will Vest is going to be able to return from the fractured elbow. So I'm keeping an eye on that for the Tigers. And I think it's 50-50. I think it really depends on what Pete Fairbanks wants because he's close with Pete Bendix. So if Fairbanks wants to get traded to a contender, he would probably not be closing depending on where he went. Again, destination always determines what's going to happen with these relievers, but he's been better since the All-Star. Excuse me, he's been better in the second half. He's not perfect, but he has the experience and the ability. I think as an eighth inning reliever on a contender, he would do well. But the Marlins could always just keep him and ride out the storm and see what happens. Because if they're not going to trade Alcantara and things of that nature, it doesn't mean he'll go. But for me, those are the three closers I see the most. That the beat writers seem to think that their teams are listening. So there's a chance they could get traded. Like I said, with Chapman and Miller kind of not being available today, it really thinned out the top end of the closer market.
Okay, great stuff there. Anything to add, Ruvain?
No, I think you got it, and I think the problem is that the market is so like we mentioned, so small, and the options
And
that are out
everybody
there
wants it.
are not, and the options are not that great. That it's just it makes things more complicated this year than in any other year because more teams are still in it. That's whether it's good or bad. That's what the story.
Okay, Matt, a couple of closer situations or bullpen situations, I should say, just to discuss. We talked a little bit about the Padres. Again, you think that Mason Miller is hanging around. If he was to leave, would it go to Adrian Morejon?
Well, Adrian Morejon's on an expiring contract. If they trade Miller, then they have to trade Morejon.
Okay.
So
who would pick it up?
If those guys get traded, and again, I think it's minimal, but then it would be Estrada.
Estrada, is he healthy still?
Yeah, they just activated him. He had a walk and 3 strikeouts in his first outing back from the IL. It was only a knee injury with him. It wasn't like it was an arm. So
right. I could not actually pick up Estrada in labor. The rules are you can't pick up an IL person, so I picked up Morejon.
Yep.
Although
Nope, that makes sense.
I guess maybe this weekend I'll shift it to Estrada based on your advice, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about the Mets situation. I personally think that no one's going anywhere. Nobody wants Devin Williams in his contract. I think that the Mets thinking that we are going to play baseball in 2027, he's just so valuable, and the Mets are asking for so much for Weaver. There's so many other players that the Mets are going to be trading. Weaver would be like a backbone of the bullpen next year. I can't see them trading. Do you agree with that?
Me?
Yeah.
I think if they get a deal they can't refuse, they'll take it. I mean, you do have some live arms down at AAA. I mean, it's hard to lose them. I think they'll trade one of him or Brazoban. I just don't know which.
I think Brosman's going to go. The question is, will the Mets be willing to trade to the Yankees Weaver back? Because I
don't think they would do that. No.
You don't think there'll be any trades between the Mets and the Yankees? Because there are a lot of pieces that the Mets have that the Yankees need, especially out in the bullpen. And the Yankees love Weaver, but the Mets will charge if they're charging $1.50 for him. For the Yankees, they'll charge $2. So Correct. It's going to cost more.
Yeah, but the Yankees are desperate. Now, I don't know. I think the only person as a reliever that they would really overpay would be Miller. But like I said, with him, with his market where it is right now, I just don't see it happening. And if they got into a bidding war for Miller, Pittsburgh and Seattle can both put together much better prospect packages with a starting pitcher than the Yankees can to get Miller. So, I mean, the Yankees really need to be exploring other options because they're not getting Mason Miller.
All right, before we go any further, let's do the Injury Gurus trivia of the week.
Now, if you're listening to the whole episode, you'll probably get some of these answers already. So I'm going to make it a little bit harder because Greg has already shown that he knows his stuff here. According to Fangraphs, which 5 teams, or according to any stats, which 5 teams have the lowest amount of saves in baseball? Now, you already mentioned a couple of them, so I'm going to make it a little bit harder. How many saves do they have?
Well, it's the Mets and Angels you mentioned already, right?
Mets and Angels are the bottom 2. But how many saves do the Angels have so far this year?
Off the top of my head, I think it's 13.
You are correct. They have
13
saves.
And they have 20 blown saves.
Yes. How many saves do the Mets have this year?
20?
I think it's only 17.
They're at 18.
So
who are their other bottom feeders? The bottom 3 teams with saves.
The Rockies and Giants.
Giants are there. The Giants have 20, but there are two others.
Not the Rockies.
Two others are tied at 21. Not the Rockies.
Well, the worst teams in baseball.
Pittsburgh and Detroit.
And the Giants.
The Giants have 20. Pittsburgh and Detroit have 21. So we've already mentioned the Mets. You've mentioned the Padres, or for trade. You mentioned the Rockies. Of those teams, of those 5 teams that I just mentioned, are any of them worth picking up a prospective closer if they're available on the market?
I like Eric Miller. He has good stuff. It's just he's left-handed, but he has their only save in the second half.
Only save?
They've only got one save in the second half.
Dear Lord.
Yes.
What?
That's why
I
when
pay attention to this stuff.
but
anyways,
I see that. I'm just surprised at how low a number. And you said the Angels only have 13 saves
for the entire year.
That's crazy. But how many wins do they have? I know they have.
Well, they've played 104
wins?
games.
What do they got? Like 45 wins? 40 less.
That's the whole reason why I did it. I wrote down
42 wins. I see.
For this trivia question, I wrote down the names of the teams and the numbers because the numbers are just mind-boggling. It doesn't make it just law of averages. It doesn't make any sense.
Who leads the league in saves?
It's Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah, Baker has 30 by himself. Yeah, Tampa's been...
Tampa.
And what's funny is the Nationals have the most save opportunities of anybody. They just had so many blown saves. Like, if they had a halfway... I mean, Beater's okay, but if they had a passable closer and you cut those blown saves in half, I mean, they're challenging the Dodgers and the Cubs for the best record in the NL.
Are they going to trade?
They may be aggressive.
I think they're playing with house money. I think they would take like a reliever with experience, but I don't think they're going to go to the top end. And like I said, there is no top end right now to the closer pool,
right.
So it's not like they can get a game changer out there. But I think in the off season, it would behoove them to really shore up. At least if they're going to play matchups, that's fine, but at least get a very capable righty and lefty. So then when you do those matchups, you can optimize them rather than bringing a guy like Matt Crook into a game where you need a win.
Okay, interesting. All right, so
do you touch any of the Rockies closers?
It's nothing personal. Like Jordan Romano's probably a really nice guy. I think his last couple of saves have been okay, but it's always with like 2 hits or a walk and a hit. So his whip just kind of hovers around 2 just because of that's the way he is. And it's, you get those couple of saves and then you have to chew on that meltdown. So I'm lucky enough on my teams. I don't need to use somebody like that, but I'd rather take my chances with a Mason Montgomery and hope the Pirates don't add and he really keeps forging ahead of. He's moved ahead of Soto. I just want to see him distance him and really get more 9th inning opportunities than some. He'll get a save, then they put him in the 7th inning, and then he gets a save and they put him in the 5th, and it's like, can you just leave the guy alone? Like him, Eric Miller. There's a few other guys that are just, I think they're better relievers. And Colorado could trade Romano. I mean, they don't have to keep him.
Didn't the Angels cut him?
Yes.
Well, here's your other fun one. Right now, he's the active save leader. He's tied for the lead on Colorado, and he leads the Angels with 4 saves.
Wow.
He has 4 saves with each team, tied with Colorado for the team lead, and leads the Angels.
Has it ever happened that a closer, led the team in saves for both teams?
That must have
Not to my
happened
knowledge.
if somebody gets traded mid-season.
Yeah, it's hard to do. So you would think somebody on the Angels is going to get by him. Like if they don't trade Zephyr John, he's at 3, so he can get 2 more. Or like I said, if Ben Joyce could come back and be healthy and grab like 5, then he can get by him. But it's mind-boggling. It's been one of the strangest years covering closers that I can recall, if not the strangest.
And we've had a couple of stable years in the last couple years, right? We've had that. So
there's stability at the top. It's just there's a lot less guys getting 15 or more saves than the previous couple of years. that's kind of where the cutoff is. We're still getting guys with 20 and 30. It's the middle class there that's kind of been wiped out.
Speaking of the top, Edwin Diaz. What percentage of the Dodgers saves will he get the rest of the year? What do you think? Because he's just
Percentage
going back.
65. Yeah,
65.
I just think there'll be times where they don't
Yeah.
push him back to back,
Yeah.
and I think Tanner Scott's still going to get some. So I mean, I know people are saying, "Oh, I got to cut Tanner Scott." I'm like, okay, but if he's your third reliever and you can stream him in weeks, especially when the Dodgers have like seven game weeks, then I think there's still value to him. It's all league dependent, but you do what you do what you need to do to make your team the best it is. I don't think Tanner Scott's done getting saves. I just think Edwin Diaz is going to get the majority. Like I said, 65%.
By the Tigers, now we hear a lot of rumblings that they're considering trading Skubal, but I mean they're not that crazy out of a playoff spot. Are they going to be trading Kenley Jansen? And is this an opportunity to pick up somebody in the Tigers bullpen for a closer spec?
Well, I mentioned the guy I like was Ty Madden, but again, his last 3 appearances have been multi innings. But if they can trade Jansen, I think he might get more looks, at least in they've done that before. They'll stretch somebody out and then narrow them down. They were really happy with Kiter Montero, but because the starting rotation needs them, they shifted him back. And if they trade Skubal, with Jackson Jobe coming back, they're still probably going to need Montero in the rotation. So that's why Ty Madden was the person that I mentioned as somebody to watch in Detroit.
Any other Ruben? Any other things to ask Greg about closers before we wrap up this section?
Yeah, there's one other player we want to talk about, Jeff Hoffman. Is there a chance that a team takes a chance on him because he's proved that he can do it in the high pressure situations last year? I mean, he's not going to be that expensive. Is there a possibility that he can sneak some saves from another team down the stretch?
If he doesn't go to Philly. Because
That's the only-
they've talked
because
about
yeah,
a reunion in Philadelphia for him, but because they were saying they could package Varsho and Hoffman together to Philadelphia. If he goes to somebody besides the Phillies, then yes, there's a chance. Like, Jeff Hoffman's very frustrating. I think he needs a change of scenery. I think that home run last year just fractured his psyche with Toronto. His underlying data is like really good. And if you look at like the last 30 days, it's really, really good. So he could, in the right situation, he's still on the hook next year for $11 million. So it's not like he's free money or anything. But if a team like the White Sox or somebody else wanted a veteran that they could use back there, then there's a chance he could get the majority of saves in the right situation. So his landing spot will really determine what his value is if the Blue Jays do trade him, and I think they're motivated to do so, and I think it would be the best thing for him.
Wow, good question. Good name to bring up, Ruben.
Yeah, I was thinking he's a perfect fit for a team like Washington because Washington can afford him. They don't have that much salary in the books to begin with, and they need a quote unquote in Minnesota too. You need a quote unquote veteran guy, and it sort of just fits them. Whether they're going to actually pull the trigger or not, that's a different story.
All right, let's go on to some waiver wire. Greg, who are a couple of names that you're interested in picking up on the waiver wire this week? Not just closers, but hitters, anybody.
Yeah. I was surprised because, I play mostly NFBC, so I don't monitor the ownership numbers on some of the other sites as closely as I probably should. But I was shocked to see that the third batter for Seattle, who's on a home run binge, is only 69% owned in CBS and 23% owned in Yahoo leagues. Dominic Canzone. I don't know what people are doing, and I know Yahoo only uses like 3 outfielders, but again, he's replaced Cal Raleigh as the third hitter in this lineup, and he's been just mashing the ball. I don't know how those numbers are where they're at, but he's definitely somebody that if he was available in my league, I'd be looking at in a deeper format. It's a little BABIP fuel, but Vaughn Grissom, he's got eligibility at first, second, and third base. Over in July, he's hitting .338 with a 521 slug. He's got 8 runs, 3 home runs, and 16 RBIs. That sounds like a pretty good guy to be able to use in my middle or corner infield, or first, second, and third if I have an injury ravaged team. And another guy of that ilk is Cody Clemens, who hit the walk-off grand slam today. Again, tons of eligibility. I have him on my 15-team Tout Wars team. I can move him around in the lineup. He can play first. He can play second. I can use him in the outfield when things get bleak out there. Again, he's not going to hit for high average. He's hovering around the 240s, but the guy's got power, and his underlying metrics, when you look on BBHQ, back those up. Look at me talking about hitters.
Yeah, look at you. I mean, Cody Clemens, he's also stole a couple of bases. Yeah, he's super useful. I have him on a bunch of teams, Cody Clemens. And I have
his ownership numbers are also very low. I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And again, I know some leagues it's not necessary, but having those guys like Grissom and Clemens really frees up your lineup, because then you can pick up whoever you want on a week to week basis if you're streaming at bats, because you can flip them almost anywhere.
Ruvain, any waiver wire picks for you?
Yeah, I got 2 middle infielders and 2 outfielders. The first one I'm going to mention is Cooper Pratt, the rookie shortstop for the Brewers. In CBS, he's only 43% owned. He hit his first major league home run against Freddie Peralta of the Mets, which if you said that last year to a Brewers fan, you'd be like shaking your head, what's going on? But since he's been called up, he's batting .284 with 2 homers and 9 stolen bases, and he's batting .345 over the past week. He's 21 years old. He's getting a lot of playing time, so he's a guy that if you need a shortstop, I mean, shortstops seem to be, you can get a lot of them, but if he's the hot guy right now. Another middle infield guy, also corner, is Luis Rengifo. He was picked up by the Padres on June 26th and has been playing full-time for the past 10 days. He's actually batting 6th in the Padres order at this point. He's eligible at second and third. For the past 10 days, he's batting .361, 2 homers, a stolen base, and 7 runs. So he's really putting up into stats in every category, and he's only 10% owned in CBS right now. So if you need a utility guy, he's perfect for that. And 2 outfielders, this is going to be in deeper leagues. Jacob Young of the Washington Nats, they're scoring a ton of runs. He's only 10% owned in CBS, and over the past 2 weeks, he's batting .371 with 1 homer, 1 stolen base, but he's batting .417 over the last week. So if you need a guy for batting average, he seems to be doing that. He's really known for his stolen bases. He's shown flashes of power this year. If you need a stolen base guy, he's that guy. And I have to mention this Met because I saw him play. I went to the game on Sunday against this past Sunday against the Dodgers, and he had a nice 3-run home run. It was his second day in a row with a 3-run home run. I'm talking about Tyrone Taylor. He will probably end up be traded because he's very good in defense, and he's just a variable guy off the bench. But since he was on the IL, and the 1 month since coming off the IL, he's raised his batting average from .202 to .241, and he's hit 6 home runs and had 12 RBIs during that time. He's only owned in 2% of CBS leagues. You could probably get him in almost every single league, and he's hitting. And now with if he stays on the Mets with Juan Soto out for an extended period of time, Tyrone Taylor will get more playing time.
Yeah, TT is my one of my son's favorite player in the Mets right now. Loves him. One of Stern's good guys that he brought over from Milwaukee. Really great. Yeah. Yes. Another San Diego guy, Ty France. He's so under-owned. Some platforms he's like 20% owned. Some he's like 50% owned. In the last month, he's slashing .355, .406, .688 with 8 homers and 22 RBIs. He's the cleanup hitter every single day for the Padres. He's hit safely in 14 out of his last 15 games. What are you waiting for? Ty France. I'll give you 2 other names. Herberto Hernandez. This is for deeper leagues. Since July 1st, 7 homers, slashing .288, .337, .650. Take a gamble on him. And Lane Thomas is heating up. He's got that power speed blend. He's actually up to 10 homers and 7 stolen bases on the year. So, if you, again, not a fantastic average, but he's hot and he gets to that combo, you could do a lot worse. Anybody else to name? Any other hitters or anybody?
Well, if you need another guy, I picked him up in I think in GDD, which I'm crapping the bed right now in. Nicky Lopez. If you need this is really deep. He's only owned he's owned in like almost no leagues. He's on like 2%. I think I own him in all the 2% there. In CBS. He's a batting average guy. He's playing almost every day. He's eligible at second, third, and short. Again, he's a batting average guy. That's all he is. He's a one-trick pony, and that's it. But if you need a guy to take up a slot, I mean, he's batting .303 on the year. So if you're really desperate, he's a guy. He's available.
Ruvain, what happened to your team in GDD? It's
I told
what
you a
happened?
couple weeks ago, my ERA and WHIP shot through the roof. They dropped like rocks. I'm now in like almost last in both of those stats. And my batting average, and my team went cold. My batting average dropped 7 points, and I happen to have Will Smith, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Spencer Steer all in the IL. So besides that, I'm doing well.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to pitcher preview. Who is a pitcher or two or three that you would like to pick up for this week, Greg?
Well, I have to pay attention to this segment because I have Shane McClanahan on a bunch of teams, and his velo drop today is worrisome. So I'm in mostly 15-team leagues, so I'm keeping tabs on Hayden Wesneski. He only had his first outing back from coming back from surgery, but he did 5.2 innings. The whip was a little high, but I'm hoping that was just a little bit of rust. I like to think I could trust the Houston staff to get him through and help him be a little bit relevant. And I'm not sure what to do because like last year I was like high on Brandon Pfaadt, and then he didn't do well, and then now he's back up and he's had like a tremendous July. Won 4 games, 16-3 K to BB. I mean, it's hard not to like that over 28.2 innings. I like everything he's doing, but this week his two-step is against the Padres and the Dodgers. So I guess we're really going to find out who the real Brandon Pfaadt is. So, I mean, if you're taking a two-start swing and he's available in, let's see here, 51% of CBS leagues. Oh, excuse me, 49. He's available in 49% of CBS, and he's only owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues. So, again, yeah, you're kind of playing roulette here, but if
His whip has been one over the last, since he's back. Actually,
so like I said, we're gonna find out what he's got this week. I mean, the Padres and the Dodgers are tough tests, but he is at home, which should help him. And if he gets you a win, at least gets you a win and racks up strikeouts, I think that's a good two-step.
Fewer strikeouts actually since he's coming back, but the whip is great. He's, I guess, paying attention to the walks. So, anyone else?
Nope, those are my two.
All right, Ruben.
Okay, I'm going to go from higher to lower here, from owned. The first one I'm going to mention is Christian Scott of the Mets. He's 56% owned in CBS. He's owned in most other places. He's pitching on Wednesday this coming week against Cleveland, but he's also to start the following week, which is something you should really look into at this point if you're interested in that type of thing, against Atlanta and against Washington. And he's been pitching very well. His last 3 starts, he's only 1-2, but he's got a 2.35 ERA, and he's got 20 strikeouts and 15 in the third inning. So he's really stepping it up. He's a guy to watch for. Another Met, Sean Manaea, who's 27% on CBS. He's got a possible 2-start against Cleveland, and of course you always have to pick against the Pirates because when you're playing the Pirates, you have to. You never know what's going to happen. You'll either strike them all out or you give up 10 runs, one or the other. So hopefully for the Mets it will be the latter.
Let's see who the Pirates are playing this week.
Oh, whatever. And because he's been striking out people, he's had 14 strikeouts in the last 16 2/3 with a 3.7 ERA. So he's really not killing you in those statistics. He's getting some strikeouts. It looks like he may be turning the corner. I have to mention him, even though he also didn't really do that well this past week. Dean Kramer, he gave up that 10 spot to Detroit, but he is a 2-start possibly this coming week against the Angels, who only have 13 saves, which means they're not that good, and against the Texas Rangers. If you take that start out, he still has 14 strikeouts in the last 14 innings. He's available in 22% of leagues. And if you need a guy for possible wins, he can get you 1, maybe even 2. And another guy I have to mention who is a friend of the podcast, he was on the podcast, and that's Randy Dobnak. He's owned in 3% of CBS leagues. He's a possible 2-start against Minnesota and against the Cubs, but in his last 16 in the third innings, he's 1-0. He's got a .55 ERA with 10 strikeouts. I think that's pretty good. So, he hasn't owned that much, and if your ERA and whip can take a possible little hit because he's not going to pitch as well for the rest of the season, he's a guy to think about because, again, he's only owned in 3% of leagues.
Well, definitely available and been on the podcast, so that means you got to pick him up.
Exact, have to.
All right, let's add in, you got Zach Thornton on the Mets, who's been doing great. Christian Scott got the better K rate, though. But Thornton has been great. .91 whip. Wow. I like Kumar Rocker. He's starting to I mean, he's striking out at least 6 batters pretty much every single time, and he's now going 6+ innings. His ERA is like floating at 4. So to me, he's like one of these high strikeout guys. Not gonna torture ERA, but don't expect anything thrilling. It'll be like high 3s, and so he's a matchup play. But if you need strikeouts in a pinch, Kumar Rocker is interesting. And I'll throw in Brady Singer. He's under-owned, I think. Very hot in the last month. His K rate now is close to 20%. To start next week versus the Athletics and at Washington. That's definitely
He is a
worth
trade candidate.
Trade candidate? Yes, he is, for sure. So I don't know if that'll mess up his rotation, but yeah, he's been doing good. All right. Anybody else to mention? Any hitters, pitchers, closers? Anybody else do we leave off? Did a lot of players today.
Yeah, I think we covered a ton. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ruvain, let's give it the injury report. What say you?
Well, because we're talking about relievers, I'm going to start with Jacob Junis, who was put on the IL earlier today, actually, with a left adductor strain, which is an abdominals type strain. They don't know when it happened, but he's been one of the best Rangers relievers this season. So you may look for the Rangers to trade for a middle reliever at this point to take his place, because you don't know how long he's going to be out for. I'm going to stay in Texas. Josh Young, Rangers manager Skip Schumacher said that Young's recovery from the left calf strain has, quote, not trended in the right direction and, quote, kind of hit a standstill right now. Corey Seager is expected back to return from the IL over the weekend, and he should take over at short, while Ezekiel Duran may move to third from short. So if you want to pick up some shares of Ezekiel Duran, if he's available, go for him. Maikel Garcia of the Royals does not look good. He was on his rehab assignment, and he began to have pain in his left hand again. They don't know how long he's going to be out. He's off his rehab right now. They send him back to Kansas City, to KC, to get further evaluation. There's no timeline on his return. I should have mentioned first, but I'm a Met fan. Aaron Judge, his timeline remains uncertain. He had a stress fracture in his first right rib, and they haven't determined what's going to be next. He still needs to be ramped up. He's still in the quote unquote letting it heal mode, according to Aaron Boone. There's no imaging coming up. Whether he'll return the rest of the year, that's an excellent question. I have no idea. My answer to that is probably you may get him toward the end of September, if anything, because the Yankees want to help get ready for the postseason, and just like the Dodgers do, they're going to try to do whatever they can to make sure he's healthy for the postseason. And I have to mention this guy, Blake Snell. He racked up 9 strikeouts in his last rehab assignment. He may be activated this week to play the Cubs. He had the quote-unquote scuba scope for his loose bodies in his elbow in mid-May, and it looks like he's going to take the mound as a starter for the Dodgers next week.
Can you imagine they're going to get him back, and maybe they're going to get Skubal back? Skubal in a week? Can you imagine the Dodgers adding those two to the rotation for the postseason? It's oh boy.
It's the Yankees of the 90s when the Yankees of the 90s got all the hitters. That's what it was.
It's not going to help the argument for baseball next
No.
year to have the Dodgers win again.
No, but it'll be great. It would be great if they lose in the playoffs.
It'd be great if the
Just
White
saying.
Sox won the whole thing.
Just saying.
I'd like to see the White Sox win it all.
The underdog story.
Yeah, I mean they were a worst team like 2 years ago, right? Didn't they
Worst
set the
first.
record for worst record ever 2 years ago?
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a big White Sox fan, and he's shocked at how well they've progressed this year compared to other years.
And was Murakami the best a free agent pickup of anybody?
I would of hitters, I would think so. Yeah.
Hitters? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's the end of our show. Was a good one. Always great having you, Greg, and definitely can't get much better insight than you. You go over the closers and the bullpen situations on a daily basis. Maybe tell us about the sites that you run and why people should listen to you.
All right. Well, I hope they would listen to me, but Reliever Recon, which I appreciate your support. We that's more NFBC focused, but we also have Will MacArthur does a great job doing the vulture streamers. So he identifies the guys that are kind of doing the bulk follower outings for people that play in head-to-head leagues that are trying to stream for wins and points with those guys because they don't count as a start. So it's kind of become its own little niche. So that's something that we offer. It's only $5 a month. So in this economy, that's a heck of a bargain. That's less than a cup of coffee in most places. Closer Monkey, I do stuff there every day. We post a little cheat sheet for the trade deadline with some guys that I think are buy and sells, and I highlighted some of the people we talked about in this show. But that there's daily write-ups on the saves, people that might be coming around the bend, things of that nature. I do a once-a-week column for The Athletic focused on relievers that published today as well. And then we're doing a special one next Tuesday, just the day after the trade deadline, just because it makes sense, because everybody's going to want to know what the fantasy fallout is from all of the things that are going to transpire on Monday. And last but not least, I do a every other week column at Baseball HQ focused on the lineups, where I try and identify guys that are either moving up, moving down, or getting much more playing time that could benefit you in different category impacts during the regular season. So I stay very busy.
That's your vacation column, because that's not a closer column.
It is my vacation column, you're right? It lets me focus on hitters for a little while, so it's nice. That's what keeps me in tune. That's how I know Canzone jumped up to third in the batting order, and
Right.
he's been thriving. So I do appreciate doing that for the guys at Baseball HQ. They've been very good to me.
And it's definitely very important to keep track of what's going on in lineups, because the biggest change in player value comes from getting more playing time, getting more at-bats, getting in the heart of the lineup so that you get more runs and RBIs. So that's what you need to pay attention to. Take a look at Greg's column over at our friends at Baseball HQ. And a little promo for Baseball HQ's First Pitch Arizona. There's still a discount available. I know. If you have not been to First Pitch Arizona, you should. It's a ton of fun. The three of us will be attending there, so you can watch some ball games with the three of us and talk about baseball or anything else you'd like to talk about with us. There's so much to talk about, but if you haven't done it, come, and once you come, you'll be hooked. So please do go over to Baseball HQ, and if you are free, it's, I think, the first weekend of November this year.
Yes.
Definitely worth coming. The Arizona All-Star game will be there. They call it the Fall Stars game. There's tons of sessions, and it's grown. Like, they used to do it just Friday to Sunday. Now they've grown all the way to Thursday. There's panels and stuff. They do a podcast room. We'll be there. There'll be a ton of other podcasts doing live shows. Really great stuff. So check that out. All right, Ruvain, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter, X, at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out injury updates as they come, next man up. And God willing, I will be there also at First Pitch. First, like you mentioned, First Pitch is one of the best things going right now in the fantasy baseball community, because you get to meet and mingle with the fantasy baseball community.
Yeah, and we have a cool wiffle ball game as well. So I'm usually one of the pitchers. So
yes, you can actually hit off of Ariel's knuckle curve slur splinker, which we will learn this year. Yes,
and that's definitely one of the highlights. I mean, there's the Family Feud game run by Sam Warshing, which is a very, very fun. You got that. You got the home run derby. I mean, last year we caught balls. You caught a ball 2 years ago. I caught a ball this past year. Frank Stample caught a ball. It's just so much fun going out in the home run area and snagging
wasn't Esmeralyn Valdez, the guy in the Pirates who's hitting all the home runs? He was in the home run derby last year there.
I got his ball.
To see him hit he saw him hit home runs off of the roof of the building behind us. He was hitting these moonshots. You saw he had the raw power. It was just a matter of whether the Pirates brought him up. They brought him up, and he's hitting those homers.
Yeah, Jordan Walker was there a couple of years ago in Arizona, and now he's obviously shining as the home run king. I mean, you will see players, the up and coming stars. You will get information. You will get stuff. Definitely worth coming. Check it out. All right. Anything else? My stuff. I'm over at Fangraphs, over at Rotoballer. Beat the Shift right here. ATCNY on Twitter, and so on and so forth. All right. Well, thanks once again to Greg Jewett for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. And from all of us here at Beat the Shift, well, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.